Greetings and salutations, fine people who are watching my video. All right, so I had several thoughts. And let me start with this little statement that I put on my Facebook. For the first few hundred years of Christianity, they operated without religion, trusting only each other's personal relationship with God. That body of believers had no approved structure to give that boundaries other than the relationship each had with the Creator. In spite of this anarchy, they spread the good news of Jesus in a way that has not been duplicated and became so important that the Roman leader used their beliefs to consolidate power, and by doing so forced a structure on the believers of the way so that it could be recognized as a religion. We still have access to the same God who led those Christians, but now we also have a religion around it that becomes more noisy and influential than the quiet voice of God we claim to serve. So, I've been reading through the Gospels, reading through Luke, Matthew, and Mark for Bible study. So, I got thoughts. And my thoughts are about how Jesus would look at the religion of Christianity at this moment in time. When there's a passage, I'm not going to look it up, but it says, teaching as doctrine the commandments of men. Jesus said that the things that they were teaching were beyond what his Father intended. His disciples didn't follow the traditions and of the elders and the religious people. Let's see, where was that in Luke? Where was Luke 6? But instead of telling the disciples that they needed to respect their elders and follow the traditions of their elders, Jesus later told them, beware the leaven of the scribes and Pharisees, to which the disciples got all stupid faced and, oh, well, we don't have any bread here. No, that's supposed to mean their doctrine. The religion part. You see examples of when they were picking the 12 disciples. One of the 12 was Matthew, who was a tax collector. And it really struck me how Matthew was the most despised by the religious community because he was a tax collector, but he was not the one that betrayed Jesus. In Luke 7, you see the followers of Christ following him, but a known sinner whose sin was evident to everybody in the community upstaged all the followers of Jesus and just repented and gave it as a sacrifice to Jesus in a way that embarrassed them. We have a great God who is able to guide his people even without the religion of Christianity. Through personal relationship. When Jesus started his ministry, he was rejected by those he grew up with. And they all tried to kill him. And later on in his ministry, when his mother and brothers came, and the disciples told him, your mother and brothers are standing here desiring to see you. But Jesus answered and said to them, my mother and brothers are those who fear the word of God and do it. Those who follow Jesus are his brothers. Joint heirs with Christ. The still small voice of the Holy Spirit sometimes gets lost in the religion of Christianity. We become so used to talking to God and singing about God, we don't listen to God. We get so focused on the Christian parts of things, the church, well, in quotation marks, the ecclesia, the gathering of the saints, that is in America a business where they have a board of directors and a financial statement and all this stuff. You got to make money to pay the people to do good works. None of this structure was present as the earliest believers, who before even the name Christians were known by their deeds. They served God. They didn't need the leaven of Christianity. They didn't need the religion part of it. They had the relationship part of it. There are so many things. Got to spend a long time driving back from a homestead festival with my mom talking about this type of stuff. There's so many things as Christians that we add to the Bible because that's tradition. One of the things that bothers me the most, not just because I'm a fat orc, but is the worship of the body that's taken from one verse, and we've inverted the purpose of the body from service to high esteem. We take those who are physically fit as more godly than those who are not. Because of one verse in the Bible. The Jews have a tradition now, and for probably even thousands of years, but at least hundreds of, maybe probably even thousands, that they're not supposed to eat cheese with meat because of a passage that has nothing to do with it. But that's just the same. They're teaching as doctrine the commandments of men. And we say that we must do this. If you don't, you're not godly. If you don't keep your body in the best condition. If you don't do certain rituals or participate in certain parts of Christianity, you are not Christian enough. And sure, they're going to find a verse. If you don't attend church on Sunday, you are forsaking the fellowship of the body of believers. It doesn't matter if you gather with believers 2 or 3 times, 4 times a week. It doesn't matter. Because our tradition has told us we must obey Christian traditions. This exact mindset was the mindset that the Pharisees and Sadducees had when they saw the disciples go, why aren't your disciples following the traditions of the elders? Why aren't they washing their hands? Why aren't they doing all these things that you're supposed to do? If they were sin not to do them, would Jesus have let his disciples break those commandments? But they weren't. They were in vain. They honor God, teaching as doctrine the commandments of men. We have put the structure around belief in Jesus and service to Jesus that stifles and chokes true Christianity because it focuses everywhere else but service and service. You got to be focused on, you must read the Bible a certain amount of times, or certain amount of times daily, or whatever. Now, prayer is a different thing. Prayer is your relationship with God. If you don't have that, you have no relationship. If you're not talking to God, you don't have a relationship with God. But there are people who talk to God and have a relationship with God, and God answers, that don't do all the religious trappings. But their faith is no less real. I say to you, beware that your religion does not become the leaven of Christianity like the leaven of the scribes and the Pharisees. Because it is easy to try and find ways to make what you do in your relationship with God sure and comfortable, and that you feel like you're doing the right thing because all these other people are telling you doing the right thing. But the one person you answer to is God and his Son separately. But don't let the religion choke the relationship. Because then it becomes the very thing that Jesus preached against, hated. And I'm going to go to Matthew 23. See how many of these things apply to the modern Christianity. Jesus spoke to the multitude and his disciples, saying, "The scribes and Pharisees, they sit in the place of Moses. Whatever they tell you to observe from the law. That observe and do. But do not do according to their works." See, that passage is misinterpreted because it's translated in English the wrong way. They're telling you, they're reading, because most of the time they read the text. What they read from the text, that's what you should obey. But do not do according to their works. For what they say, they do not do. They bind heavy burdens hard to bear and lay them on men's shoulders. But they will themselves not move them with one of their fingers. You have pastors and preachers who command help for the poor, but won't help the poor themselves. But all their works they do to be seen by men. They post everything they do on Facebook or on their ministry page. They make their phylacteries broad, which was a reminder to prayer, like an icon. They love the best seats at feasts and the best seats in the synagogue. If you ever walked into a church and see all the best seats right up on the stage, that's the same thing that the scribes and Pharisees did. Greetings in the marketplace and be called, "Pastor, Pastor!" But you do not be called pastor, for one is your teacher, that is the Christ, and you are all brethren. We're equals. Do not call anyone on earth your father, for one is your Father, and he is in heaven. Do not be called teachers, for one is your teacher, that is the Christ. Therefore, he who is greatest among you shall be your servant. For he who exalts himself shall be humbled. He who humbles himself shall be exalted. What are you, scribes and Pharisees? For you set up the kingdom of heaven against men, and neither you go in yourselves, but nor do you allow those who are entering to go in. What are you, scribes and Pharisees? You devour widows' houses, and for pretense make long prayers. How many times do you see nice, well-meaning people give a 30-minute prayer opening a church service, 10 minutes, whatever, or before your meal, you have somebody who's praying, but it's really a sermon. Are they really talking to God? It doesn't sound like they're talking to God. Maybe they're talking at God. Therefore you will receive greater condemnation. What are you, scribes and Pharisees? For you send missionaries far away. When you win them, you make them twice the son of hell as yourselves. Is Jesus saying missions is bad? No. He's saying taking their ideas and their doctrine, their leaven, and infesting their leaven in innocent people. That's bad. They're infesting people with religion and not relationship. (16-22) talk about swearing of oaths. The legalism. Well, if we don't do it exactly this way, it doesn't break what God has told us. But we can get away with it. We can be deceitful, sneaky people because we didn't exactly break the rules. It says, what are you, scribes and Pharisees? You pay a tithe of even the small things, but you've neglected the important things: justice, mercy, and faith. You should have done both. You strain out a gnat and swallow a camel. These are the things the church needs to avoid, so we don't become the leaven of the scribes and the Pharisees. We don't become the leaven of Christianity. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, you are whitewashed tombs, which indeed look outwardly beautiful, but are full of dead men's bones and uncleanness. How many in the church are involved in sexual sin and look wonderfully perfect on the outside? Or people that are hateful, evil people that will smile to you all day on Sunday. Hateful, evil people who are as fake as plastic as Ken and Barbie. Do not become this. Do not let Christianity become the very thing that Jesus preached against. Focus on your relationship with God, service to others, and less on the ordinances and the traditions of the church. Because if you focus on the ordinances and traditions of the church, hey, I'm doing praise and worship, and I listen to the teacher. I go to Sunday school. Oh, I leave church, go to the restaurant, and are a complete bunch to the people at the place where the people at the restaurant are cursing all the Christians because they're the worst evil people. I've seen it. If you have a relationship with God, your life is real with God, whether it's in a church with your brothers and sisters, or it's at home or in the community. Be real. Serve the Creator. And I don't think anybody's going to listen to this, but I don't care because I got the message out. Yay, so it's done. And I sound like I'm stupid because, you know what? I don't care. I'm real. I love God. And I'm concerned about His church. Reading the Gospels more and more right now has made me more concerned about His church. So I see how easy it is to get blinded by the noise as a normal Christian and think you're doing right with the silence. You're tricking yourself into believing you have a relationship with God, even though you don't hear God. You don't have a relationship with God, but you do all the churchy things. This is wrong, and the same thing that the scribes and Pharisees do. Do not let your life get poisoned by that leaven, the leaven of Christianity.